Welcome, GeoTrig. This is section 3-2, Properties of Real Lines. The essential question is, what are some special angle pairs formed by parallel lines and a transversal? Let's begin. This is a one-page summary of this lesson. There's a lot of different chunks in it, but this picture says it all. I got two parallel lines, A and B. So A is parallel to B. That's indicated by this little arrow that we put here, the little arrowhead. If they are parallel and C is our transversal, then angle 1, angle 3, angle 5, and angle 7 are congruent. That means they have the same measurement. And 2, 4, 6, and 8 are also congruent and they have the same measurement. Notice the pattern going on here. So let's break this down into a few different theorems. But this picture really says it all. Look at it, memorize it, appreciate it. There's really 2 pages of this summary. But this second part is just about the measurements. So the same side interior angles postulate says if we got two parallel lines and a transversal, then the same side interior angles are supplementary. Same side interior. That means the measure of angle 4 and 5 equals 180, and the measure of angle 3 and 6 also equals 180. So those are the two main slides going on. And let's break this down. Alright, that's the same slide. Okay, so here's the theorems, and write down what you have to, look at these and read them over. But these are just breaking down that first slide. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the alternate interior angles are congruent. So that says if you have parallel lines L and M, then 4 is congruent to 6 and 3 is congruent to 5. Nice that the colors match up. Corresponding angles theorem says if you have the parallel lines, then the corresponding angles are congruent. So that's where we said top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. So 1 and 5 are congruent, 2 and 6 are congruent, 3 and 7, and 4 and 8. These are all congruent angles. Alternate exterior angles theorem says the alternate exterior angles are congruent if you have two parallel lines and a transversal. So 1 is congruent to 7, 8 is congruent with 2. With section 3-3 in the book, I'm skipping that, but it's basically just doing the converse of every one of those theorems. So we might do that a little bit in class, or it might be fun to look that over, but it's the same idea. It's just the converse. So let's do some examples. Pause the video. Alright, let's answer this. The measure of angle 3 is 55 degrees, so I'm going to write 55. Which angles are supplementary to angle 3? So supplementary equals 180. So what's supplementary to this? Well, 4 is going to be supplementary because the straight line, the angle addition postulate with a straight line angle right there. So angle 4, that's going to be supplementary. And corresponding angles are also going to be supplementary with angle 3. Well, 2's got to also be for the same reasons. And if 4 and 2 are supplementary, if 2 is, then 6 has to because corresponding angles are congruent, so angle 6. And if 4 is, 8 has to because corresponding angles are congruent. Alright, or you can do it by the, what is it called? The same side interior angles postulate would say they have to be supplementary. So there you go. That's why 8 could be that. Alright, let's move on to the next. Pause the video. Okay, let's begin. So this is, we want to prove these. So I'm given A is parallel to B. Prove that angle 1 and angle 8 are supplementary. So this is a 2-column proof. The book does other proofs. I want to focus on these 2-column proofs. So the first thing I want to do every time I do a statement, a proof, is let's start with the given. A is parallel to B. The reasons for that is it's given. So start with that. Now, well, if A is parallel to B, what can I tell about this? I got the transversal right there. Well, step 2, I can tell that angle 1 is congruent with angle 5. Why can I say that? Because these are corresponding angles, so corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding angles, I'm just abbreviating, are congruent if you have parallel lines. Alright, so what's the next thing I can say? Well, for step 3, since these angles are congruent, I can say the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 5. And that's because congruent angles have equal measure. I'm going to say congruent angles have equal measure. Alright, so for the next step there, what can I say next? Well, I know that the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 8 has got to equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to say measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 8 equals 180. And this is because it's the definition of supplementary angles. So I'm just going to write supplementary angles. And on top of that, what's my next step here? I can substitute. So for step number 5, I can say the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 8 equals 180 degrees. So I'm substituting this angle 5 for angle 1, and I can do that because of substitution of 3 into 4. So 5 is going to be substitution. All right, my next step here, step 6. Well, that was step 5. Did I miss one? I missed one in there. 5. You should have done a step that said 5 and 8 are supplementary, but right before 3 and 4. But whatever, let's move on. Okay, so my last step, angle 1 and angle 8 are supplementary. That's what I wanted to get you. Why? Because they add, it's the definition. So I'm going to say the definition of supplementary. They add up to 180. And that's it. Last example. What is the value for y? Pause the video. Alright, let's begin. So looking at these lines, they're not labeled. I don't have labels for lines, but I know these two lines are parallel because of these triangles. So these two lines are parallel, and you can pretend this line keeps going on forever. And I know this angle, this line right here, is a transversal and it's cutting through. So that means I know some properties on those angles and I can figure it out. Well, if that's a transversal, and this is also a transversal right here. So what I can tell first is I can do corresponding interior angles right here. So corresponding interior angles, not corresponding. What is the word? It is same side interior angles. Same side interior angles say that these two angles together have to equal 1 plus 180. 80 degrees has to equal 180. So 40 plus y plus that 80 has to add up to 180 degrees. These two angles, this angle and this angle, are corresponding angles. So now I got an equation I can just solve. So combining like terms, 120 plus y equals 180. And then subtract 120 from both sides. And then you're going to get y equals 60. So the value for y is 60. All right, that's it.